able to make it as
Okay.
he is, but I think everybody else is.
Okay.
Will it be,
Thank you, too.
will it be recorded or,
Nice talking on us.
Good evening. I'll call this meeting, Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting on December 13th, 2022 to order. Before we get to the agenda, I wanted to recognize our new member, Tom Corsillo. Welcome, Tom. Thank you very much for your service and joining us. Good to be here. Secondly, to less enthusiastic news, in the paper, we've learned that the son of Bill Fitzpatrick had passed, unfortunately. He's as far as attorneys go, is a colleague in the area, certainly comes before this commission, very well respected gentleman. So I would certainly like to extend my condolences to him. I know the wake is this evening, but if anybody needs to say something quickly, otherwise just a quick moment of silence for him and his family.
Yes, I attended, and he certainly has a lot of friends and colleagues.
Yes. No, well respected and rightfully earned. And devastating loss. So just a quick moment, please. Thank you. So, to the agenda then, meeting minutes from November 15th, 2022.
Move to approve?
Move to approve by Commissioner Francis.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have a question. I read through the minutes today, and I just noticed under, the regulation change for the restaurants, it didn't note that we had closed the public hearing. So I just wanted to make sure that was noted in the notes.
We have a second by Commissioner Levy, I think, right?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I just wanted to confirm.
No,
that
and that's fine,
correct?
just to get that in there. Yes, that was, I believe what we did, and, we can reflect that in the minutes.
Thank you.
Certainly do that.
Point of order, am I seated or not?
No, all the regular members are present at the moment. Because Commissioner Barone and Commissioner Brayman are present remotely.
Yes.
We have all the regular members are present. Thank you for.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Any other, Commissioner Francis or Levy, any comments
They were fine.
No comments.
with that addition? Any other member of the commission? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. I see 7 hands, so it passes unanimously. Next is organizational, or election of officers. Since we have a new year, we have the obligation to elect new officers. So we'll start with chairman. May I have a motion? Commissioner Brayman?
Mr. Chair, I nominate you, Thomas Noonan, for chair.
Thank you. I'll second. Commissioner Ford, thank you for seconding. Any other nominations or comments? Commissioner Francis?
You've done a fine job, and I welcome you to another year in the chair.
Thank you. On the hot seat, yep. Commissioner Harrison?
Yeah, I would just say, you've been a great chairman, you've been very fair, and you've kept things going, and I welcome you to another year, hopefully.
Thank you.
Just add that you've led us through a time of transition from, the all remote hearings to now hybrid or fully in-person hearings, and through a lot of long and complex matters with grace and good humor.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. We can put it to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. See 7 hands. Thank you again for the kind words and your support and confidence in extending my sentence or term for another year. But thank you. I look forward to it, and I'm honored by your confidence in me and your kind words. Move on to vice chair. And I would like to nominate Commissioner Lenny Brayman to continue on as vice chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I second?
Second.
Commissioner Harrison to second?
Yeah, I would if I may,
Sure.
I would just say, I think this board is a great example of acting in a very bipartisan way in a world that isn't always bipartisan. And having you serve as chairman as a Republican, Mr. Brahman as a Democrat, I really think it's a great example to the other town bodies that we act in this way. Because at the end of the day, this is not a political body. You know, we follow the laws, our regulations, and I commend you. I commend Lenny. I commend you for acting in that way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words, Commissioner Harrison. Appreciate it.
No, Lenny, Commissioner Brayman, you've served honorably. You've been, we value your opinion, value your insight. You've been a very valuable member to this commission, and as vice chair, and happy to support your nomination to continue in that role.
Appreciate the kind words.
Any other nominations or comments from the commission? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. I see 7, so passes unanimously. Vice Chair Brayman continues.
Congratulations.
Thank you all very much. I'm really honored and privileged to serve the town in this way.
Thank you. The Secretary, Commissioner Levy.
I'd like to nominate Meg Francis to continue as secretary. She's diligent. She has an eagle eye for spotting every typo or any mistake in the minutes, and we'd be lost without her in that role.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Ford, seconds.
I concur with everything my fellow commissioner said.
Yeah, Commissioner Francis has also been a very valuable member, as not just a member of the commission, but as secretary, and I would, of course, support her moving forward as well.
Thank you.
Any other nominations or comments? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. See 7 hands, passes unanimously. Next item, schedule of meetings. I believe Mr. Wendt has sent out proposed schedule of meetings. Should we?
I don't have anything to add other than it was in your packet. It's the standard second and fourth Tuesday of each month, with the exception of November and December. We're only one meeting. There's no conflict with any of the published holidays, so we need to have this on file with the town clerk so we can move forward with our next year's planning.
I didn't see even November election day being an issue this time around or anything like that, so. Well, let's get a motion on the table, but is there a motion?
Move to approve the proposed meeting schedule for 2023.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Levy, second by Commissioner Ford. Any comments? I guess to follow the standard.
It's our standard schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything, so.
But I will say, editorial, there is a meeting scheduled for the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day, so we'll make sure we have Valentine's for you guys on this.
Okay. Can we put, any other comments, or can we put this to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. See 7 hands, passes unanimously. Next item, 1252 Pequot Ave, request of Attorney William.
Stand by, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
You did skip, we did put an item.
Oh, Commissioner training, I was.
If this is an informational, there's
Yeah,
no action necessary on your part.
That might have been
but I'll let
intentional on my
Emmeline, we did submit a document, but I'll let Emmeline kind of walk you through what that's.
Commissioner training, yes,
Yes.
thank you.
So in the past legislative session, there was approved a requirement that land use commissioners, and this applies to the Plan and Zoning Commission, as well as our Zoning Board of Appeals, are required to take 4 hours of commissioner training. Only one of those hours is specifically mandated for affordable and fair housing. The rest of the 3 hours can be entirely at your discretion, depending on what your interests are, whether you want to take one that's specific to law, whether you want to take one that's specific to the environment. That's entirely up to you. Only for this first year is the 4-hour requirement for this, for the full year. After that, it's 4 hours every 2 years. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, the document that was sent out is an OPM, I think an OPM guidance document that talks about a pretty broad range of topics. There's a lot of discussion still ongoing as how that is going to roll out. We are hopeful that a lot of this will be made available online, so you don't necessarily have to attend in person. I know Yukon Clear, many of you, I think all of you may have taken a look at the Yukon Clear basic training for land use commissioners when you first came on. Not sure yet whether that program is going to be credited. We do not expect, we're hopeful that there's not going to be fees for these, but we did bump our education budget up in anticipation of this. So if there are fees for any class you may register for, there's reimbursement money available through our education and membership budget. So we'll communicate more. It's still, the state and the Connecticut Association, chapter of the American Planning Association and other groups are trying to figure out how to do this. Yukon has been a great resource for commissioner training thus far, and we expect that they're going to be participating as well. So we just wanted to kind of bookmark this for you. So over the course of the next calendar year, but when more concrete opportunities become available, we'll share those with you. But we just wanted to make you aware that this was a requirement going forward.
Our regular, like, continuing legal education for attorneys, is that something that's considered?
I think you would probably have to just let us know. The only requirement is that at the end of the first year, I think it's by March following the very first year, we have to report to our local elected officials that you folks have achieved the requirement. So we'll just have to have an understanding as to which ones you choose to do and that you've met that minimum 1 hour in affordable and fair housing.
Okay.
Well, we expect the regional councils of governments are going to be looking at this as well and offering regional opportunities. So it's not going to be every town for themselves on how to figure this out, that hopefully there'll be some regional and statewide opportunities that you guys can tap into. And when those become available, we'll certainly communicate them to you. But we just wanted to let you know in the next 1 year that we're going to hopefully get 4 hours of training under your guys' belts to the extent, I know many of you have already done the land use Yukon Clear opportunities. So more to come. We just wanted to put it on your radar that this is a requirement.
Great. Thank you. Sorry for that. Now, 1252 Pequot Avenue, request of Attorney William Fitzpatrick for a 90-day extension to record final subdivision map.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is a 2-lot subdivision approved back in June. You did already approve one 90-day extension. This would be the second and final 90-day extension available to get that map on record. It's a fairly pro forma request. I have nothing further.
May I have a motion? Commissioner Francis? Move to approve?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. Commissioner Harrison, second? As of right, correct, Mr. Wendt?
It is. There's been no substantive change to anything that impacts this subdivision since it was approved in June.
So, with that, can we put it to a vote, or are there any comments? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. See 7 hands, so it passes unanimously. Next item is our closed executive session to discuss litigation.
You do, Mr. Chairman, need to take a 2/3 vote to adjourn to closed executive session.
Thank you. May I have a motion to close to executive session? Commissioner Levy?
Move to adjourn to close executive session.
Commissioner Ford seconds. Any comments, or can we go to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. See 7 hands. So we will move into closed executive session. I believe we're down the hall.
Yeah, we're going to go into the first classroom on the right as you go down the hall.
No, I just have allergies.
We shall return.
Yeah, for those of you at home, we will be back.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody at home. I think it's just this gentleman here. All right.
I have a sweater.
Oh, I have a coat.
How are you?
there anyone else coming on behalf of your application?
There should be, yes.
Okay.
I guess nobody told me that didn't start at 6:30.
So are you also with, I think there's an engineer that's on the?
Work for 3:45.
Yeah, is that Passari, is he the engineer?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. All right.
Great.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's, summer with the sun.
Yep, I think so. Yeah, thank you.
Is that nasty enough again?
I know, I have to be careful, I'm recusing myself.
Yeah.
Application.
Well, an executive.
You showing up in the participant? Okay. So I'll call the meeting back to order. We've finished our closed executive session. No votes were taken and no decisions were made. Moving on to old business, zoning regulation amendment, application of the economic development to amend section 12.3.15, 12.4.17, 12.5.15, 13.14.2, 21.16.3.12, and 28.6.12 of the zoning regulations regarding outdoor dining. Mr. Wen.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna, kind of review a little bit of where we've been, and make some recommendations of how we, might proceed going forward here. So, just quickly, and much of this, if not all of it, was in the staff comments that, previously submitted to you. But going back to 1990, this commission has approved over, 65 outdoor dining facilities through an application for certificate of zoning compliance. These facilities have been successfully administered and widely supported by the community, without adverse impact. The COVID protocols that we've been experiencing the last couple of years, allowed administrative review and relaxing those standards. Those executive orders are due to expire at the end of April. And that experience has demonstrated that, there may be additional opportunity for outdoor dining beyond what our regulations currently permit, also potentially without adverse impact. I want to just clarify, because I understand, the confusion between what the commission has approved in the past and what the COVID protocols permitted, but I just want to be clear so everybody understands that once those executive orders expire, all of those COVID protocol permits also expire. So if a restaurant did not have prior commission approval, that seating has to go away. And if they want to come forward with an opportunity that they didn't have before, that would require a new application to the commission for site plan review under this proposal. So all of those COVID permits go away once the executive orders expire. I also want to make clear, and there was some, I hope, at least if there's any confusion, that we're talking about permits, all of the, except for several examples, we're talking about regulating a private property. We're not occupying the public street. There was some question in Attorney Green's discourse about your authority to grant permission to occupy a state road or a highway. He's correct. You don't have any, and nor have you done so independently. That would require a lease arrangement of town land through the Board of Selectmen and the RTM. And we have 4 examples over the last 30 years where that has occurred. And you're well familiar with these. Central Restaurant occupies a portion of Sherman Green town property, went through a lease. Old Post Tavern and the new restaurant, Isla or Isla, however you pronounce it, out in front of the Community Theater Plaza, occupy portions of town property, all went through the Board of Selectmen and RTM lease, which you also reviewed. And the only other is Chelsea on Uncle Place, has a lease with the town for some sidewalk. So the vast majority of the restaurants that we have previously approved are confined to private property. They don't extend into the public domain. So what the Economic Development Commission requested is essentially 4 changes to the regulations. Firstly, is to remove the present requirement that restaurants that have served customers only when they're seated at tables, as opposed to counter service restaurants, have at least 3/4 of the customer seats within an enclosed building. That's a current requirement. As I said before, it's important to note that restaurants that don't have waiter service, that aren't reliant on customers being served at tables, don't have that limitation already. The best example I can give you of that is the Firehouse Deli, is a deli that they have more outside seating outside than they have inside. That's a counter service takeout facility, but we already have examples where we have restaurants that have more outside dining than they have inside dining. The commission modified, we went away from, prior to 1994, the regulations used to reference the number of tables and chairs in the parking requirement. We got away from that because it became unwieldy to keep track of the furniture over the years, literally. And so we went to a patron floor area calculation, which is easy to define on a site plan, less easy to modify once it's been defined. And when we did that, we probably should have eliminated the reference to tables and chairs, but we did not. So the proposal is to do that now. We don't see any particular need for this limitation, and quite frankly, it has not been strictly enforced. The second proposal change, it really is the bigger piece to this, is, as you know, our parking regulations presently allow the first 150 feet of seasonal outdoor dining not to include, or not to require additional parking. What the Economic Development Commission put forth here is to increase that 150 to 575. And their basis was on the median size of the COVID protocol permits was somewhere in that neighborhood of 575 square feet. The third thing that they're proposing is to eliminate the word seasonal from the reference in the outdoor dining section, where now it says seasonal outdoor. This commission has had the practice of adopting some pretty consistent standards or conditions of approval, I should say, for applications that you've approved, setting that season from April 1 to November 1, and the applicant seeks to remove that limitation to allow more flexibility to the extent the weather may permit, or as investments in the heating infrastructure may permit. And lastly, there was a proposal to allow a special permit process for outdoor dining to occupy parking that might otherwise be required, and give you the flexibility to reduce the number of parking spaces to be required. So that's the essence of the proposal. After the hearing, or during the course of your discussions, you asked us to provide some additional outreach. We do have the response from the Fairfield Senior Advocates and the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, as was requested. We also got clarification from the police chief in response to another email to try to clarify his statement. But the bottom line of all of those statements, in my view, is that there really wasn't an identifiable difference in calls or responses from the health department or fire department with respect to issues that arose out of the expanded COVID opportunity versus their previous experience. There was a long list of issues that Attorney Green brought up. I did try to address the ones that I thought were particularly relevant and just simply respond to those, as we do not have a specific definition for restaurant or other food service uses. However, our use categories do distinguish between restaurants that require table service versus those that don't. Primarily, the differences in a neighborhood design district, for example, you can only have a table service restaurant, not a primarily takeout restaurant. The current standard for parking is 1 space for each 40 square feet of patron space. Well, of course, with the current allowance of the first 150 square feet of outdoor dining not to require additional parking, and the present solely takeout facilities, we regulate the same as retail. As noted earlier, this commission has approved 63 facilities for outdoor dining. It would theoretically be possible, the way this construct would be, for a restaurant to have outdoor dining with no indoor patron area under this proposal, but only if it's approved by this commission. We don't have any examples of that. I said we do have examples of restaurants that have more outside seating than in, but I can't think of one that is completely void of any indoor space. We're not proposing, this regulation does not grant or the authority for the commission to approve outdoor dining in any town or state right-of-way, as we previously talked about. And there was some question about the authority to regulate outdoor dining, but my response to that is it's the same statutory authority this commission has to regulate any use. We've been doing it for a long time, so I don't know why there was any kind of question about that. The one point that Attorney Green raised that we ultimately do agree with is the proposal to waive parking spaces through a special permit process. We ultimately agree that that's problematic, and we are therefore recommending that that piece not be included in the regulation going forward. So overall, the idea here is to try to modestly expand the outdoor dining opportunity. We've been doing it for a long time now, and it hasn't resulted in, at least to my knowledge, of any adverse consequences. We're going to keep that process the same. It's in your hands. It will be a site plan application. And again, we are also making another recommendation and looking at the dining inventory of the facilities that this commission has approved, separate from the COVID permits that are a different animal. The average outdoor facility size of the 63 that the commission has approved is somewhere in the neighborhood of 375 square feet. So we are recommending, after consultation with Mr. Barnhart, and he has no issue with this, to reduce the proposal from the current 575 feet, which they are, to 400, to be more in line with what the average of the areas that you have already approved. And I just parenthetically noted that you should also know that a fair number of those have received variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if we don't move the needle a little bit, I would suggest that applicants are still going to be going to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They've had a pretty good track record of approvals, which tells me that maybe there's an opportunity here to make it a little easier so they don't have to take that second step. So we did provide for you a revision to what the result would be if you were to agree with those recommendations, would be to take the proposal that was offered, eliminate the language that would allow folks to take up parking spaces, basically that would allow you to grant the variance. If someone were to propose outdoor dining within existing parking, they'd have to show that they have the requisite space, or they'd need a variance. You don't have the authority to grant that variance, so that comes out. And we're proposing that the 575 be reduced to 400, and then the other two changes that are being asked remain to consider dropping that 3/4 customer seats located within a building requirement, and potentially eliminating the word seasonal. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but that's our recommendation going forward.
We need a motion on to discuss. Thank you, Mr. Wentz. May I have a motion?
Move the table.
Okay, we'll start with that. Commissioner Francis moved to table. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Francis.
I just would like to ask some questions. Since our regulation has been working very well for 20 years, it bothers me. I'm very reticent to jump in and change it. I mean, heaven knows, we support restaurants. You know, I think we've all been great. The minute they opened up in August or September, we were there. And the takeout was heavily, and I feel they've been made whole from the vicious 2 years that they had. And of course, many small businesses did too. But what's the reason that 3/4 of the people should be inside, and what does that matter?
Well, I would agree that it really shouldn't matter. I don't know, that it's been in the regulations for a long time. In my opinion, we probably should have revised that when we switched from referencing tables and chairs to be the reference for parking to patronary, but it didn't occur. We do have examples of facilities that have been approved that ultimately have more than 25% of their total number of seats outside. It's not a huge number, but it has, this is a regulation that really has not, for better or for worse, or for no particular reason, has not been strictly enforced.
There would be somebody like Chips that has a lot of private property beside it.
Well, just in terms of, it's usually the smaller one. If you've got a really small restaurant that has, if you've got 40 seats inside and you put 15 or 20 outside, you're already beyond that 25%. So, in my personal opinion, I don't see a huge need to have that restriction.
No. But it's just, how many restaurants, most of them are 20 feet wide, 30 feet wide,
Well,
and they're on sidewalks. Where are they getting all this space? I mean, some of them have it along the side.
Let me ask this, let me just jump in, just because the motion is to table, which is fine, because I actually would like some additional time to review this stuff as well. Certainly we need a motion in order to discuss things. Do you want, if the commission is amendable to tabling it, is it worth tabling it now and maybe getting some questions to staff off the record, or do you want to go?
I would rather discuss it.
Okay.
Because we don't have anything else coming, do we?
Well, we have, stay as long as we want, I guess. We do have some applications coming forth. My point is this, if you wanted, if the idea was to discuss the motion, the application substantively, then tabling is, I can always talk, I guess, whatever we like, I guess, and vote, but I mean, if the idea is people would like some additional time to think about things, consider it, reach out to staff and get it.
Maybe we could even vote on it tonight after we discuss it.
I move to approve, and then if
Well,
somebody
hold
wants
on.
to table, we could entertain it later.
Okay, I mean, I just, if tabling is where people want to go, then, with some discussion, I guess, let's table it. But if we want to discuss it substantively, then, maybe a substantive motion should be put on. And I put that out there for anybody else, but,
I'll move to amend the motion.
Well, the motion is to,
yes.
but I wanted to discuss it.
Okay, then go on. Sorry.
It's an awful lot to require no parking for 150 square feet additional, but we're gonna change that permanently to 400. Or in one of your write-ups, it looked like it was just in one zone.
No, it would be, the 400 would apply to the parking regulation.
Yeah.
So
In all zones.
correct.
You know the sheet you have that
Yes.
in this zone and this zone?
Right. The only thing that's zone by zone by zone are all the references to where the language is requiring no more than the 3/4 of the seats have to be within the building. Everything else,
Okay.
the square footage, the present 150 is in the parking regulation. the original application proposed bumping that to 575. We're suggesting, that be reduced to 400.
And,
But to go to your previous statement, you're right. There are many facilities that don't have 400 square feet available to them to utilize. So some will, some won't, and that's why it's the average size. It's not all places are going to have 400 square feet that they will be able to utilize to do this.
yeah,
But for those that do, we're trying to eliminate a step where they would first have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for relief for parking before they come to this commission.
now what's our square footage? 40 square feet is one parking space?
Correct. 40, one space for every 40 patron spaces, so 400 square feet would amount to requiring 10 spaces.
Or to not requiring 10.
Correct. But again, the experience
Yeah,
has
but of course,
been,
it's not gonna be restaurant after restaurant after restaurant. It'll be
well,
one here, one.
right. The other aspect of this is indoor and outdoor space tends to be mutually exclusive. You tend not to see maximum indoor capacity at the same time you're maximizing your outdoor capacity. So while it may seem like a big number, the folks that would otherwise be inside would be outside so we don't generally see them doubling their overall capacity. It's just an amenity.
All right, so that's number one and number two. And, the word seasonal, I think we definitely need to keep that personally. Gotta have those tables and chairs out of there come snow. Number four.
Or the fourth element that they are proposing that we agree should be stricken, so that we are recommending that the proposal that would allow a special permit process for you to reduce parking on a case-by-case basis ought to be eliminated from the proposal. So the revised draft that we provided to you crosses out that language.
What's the special permit process, ZBA?
No, it would put that to you, which is one of the contentions that Mr. Green made, that you don't have the authority to do that. We ultimately concede that point,
Okay.
and think that should be taken out of the proposal.
Okay, well, that's my questions for him. Thank you.
Commissioner Harrison?
Yeah, thank you. And, Jim, thank you very much for the additional information that you sent over, in the last few weeks. It's been very helpful. Personally, I love the discussion that we're having tonight, and, I'm definitely in favor of probably tabling the vote till next time. I would like to understand and take more time to understand more about the demand, details about the existing process, and I know you've gone over that, and I don't want to exhaust that, but it's just more about the proposed and how the proposal would work, and I guess for adverse impacts. And also, I think we're also having a really important discussion tomorrow night in the POCD. And I think we should just have a larger analysis of the combined effect of housing density and restaurant capacity downtown, both with less parking, and, between the existing transit area regulations, 830G, and with this POCD change, and how this would all factor in together. So I think this is kind of a bigger discussion, perhaps, when we talk more tomorrow as well. So with that comment, I just also had a question. With that table that you sent over in the staff notes, now, the table just outlines when the commission approved, I guess, the outdoor dining. And most of the dates precede COVID-19 and the emergency orders. Do we have a table that shows how many people or how many businesses took advantage of the emergency orders?
Yeah,
All of them, I haven't seen that.
we did. We provided that originally,
Okay.
with the, I provided you a paper copy of that at the hearing.
Okay, so that wasn't the same table that was in the staff.
It's different, but again, keep in mind that's why I wanted to try to clarify. All of those COVID protocol permits sunset and they go away.
No, I'm aware.
They don't get grandfathered in, they have to go. It was a mix. Some folks, some existing restaurants on this list expanded their footprints to other spaces, either in front of other storefronts that were temporarily closed for COVID. There were a number that expanded into parking lots that the executive order allowed them to do. So all of those additional parking lot expansions have to come off. So it was a mix, and there were a number, probably half of the COVID protocol permits were restaurants that didn't have outdoor dining before that. But there is a list, and I have it. I can email it to you. I didn't include it again, but I provided I believe my recollection was it was a hard copy list.
No, I recall,
and some were highlighted. I think I highlighted the ones that are already on, that previously had outdoor dining as opposed to those that didn't. But if anybody needs that, I'm happy to provide.
I know, thank you, and apologies. And then I think we should just also be really clear, kind of piggybacking what Attorney Green brought to us, is how do we define a restaurant? I mean, could I have a food truck in a parking lot and be able to put up outdoor dining? I think we just have to be clear in our regulations on how we're defining eating establishments in Fairfield, if this is going to be changing. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, as other towns who have adopted, have adopted new regulations, just given the timing now, like how have they done that? Have they defined that?
Well, again, we have a set list of what types of food establishments can be permitted, and then the outdoor dining goes along with the parking. We can certainly look at that, but again, I would just go back to saying we've got a pretty robust list of folks that this commission has approved that's over a long period of time that hasn't resulted in any adverse consequences that I'm aware of. So we're not looking to change the way you folks review those, in whatever conditions of approval you might deem fit are certainly fair game, and the consistency has been, as Meg just said, that removal of the tables and chairs in the offices and no outside sound system, no additional signage, and so forth, have all been consistent. Other towns do it differently. Westport, for example, doesn't require any parking for any type of outdoor dining. So they don't require any additional parking. So it's all over the place. The communities can define that as they see fit. We're just trying to take the experience that we've had over the last couple of years and say maybe there's room to bump that 150-foot exemption up to a higher number.
Yeah, no, and I agree that this is the appropriate time to do that, and I'm in complete alignment with you.
So that's where I'll leave that for now.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Levy?
I'd just like to, the motion is to table. If we're gonna table it, then I think we should do that and reserve our discussion until the next meeting. Alternatively, if we do wanna have substantive discussions, I would be prepared to amend that motion, put a motion on the floor relating to this, proposal, and then if later we wanna table the vote, we could do it that way. But, before I expound on my views, are we going forward, or are we tabling it?
No, and I think the fair point is, if we're tabling it, if people have questions of staff, now is a decent time enough to do it. If we're gonna have a full-on discussion, I think this, I believe this, and maybe, I think then that should, a more substantive grant or denial would be more appropriate, but, So with that,
No, I think we'll end up approving it, it's just, do we want to tweak anything? That's
which is
all.
fine.
Yeah,
But,
that's why we'd rather discuss it, but it's pretty much over.
Unless
Commissioners.
Like I said, I don't, if we're gonna have a massive discussion, I would suggest we move to a different motion. But if people are thinking that, they want extra time to consider, that's fine. Again, I think limited questions of staff is fair at this point, but I would keep it limited. I think Commissioner Braun.
I have a few questions to piggyback on some of the other questions. About ZBA, on the list that we have, when it says ZBA approved, does that mean we had no involvement in it at all? It was just ZBA?
There are examples of both. You know, early on, there are a few examples that were ZBA only, but the majority are, have had site plan approvals subsequent to their ZBA approval.
And why would they need, I guess I'm trying to figure out, because ZBA can approve the park, but we would still have to approve the outdoor dining anyway.
Correct. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but ZBA doesn't have the authority to approve anything. They can only choose to waive regulations or not. So if, once the regulation is waived, then the next step is the actual site plan approval that's in your jurisdiction.
So, the ones that, so, okay, that's good. So, the definition of restaurant is stated in all these sections that are looking to be amended. And it says, restaurants and other food service establishments where customers are served only when seated at tables or counters. And then it goes on with the 3/4 have to be inside the building. Does that mean that fast food is not included in this? Or
Correct.
drive-throughs, right?
Oh,
So fast.
The distinction there is counter service restaurants that don't have wait staff, for example, are not limited to what percentage of their parking may, or of their seating may be inside rather than outside.
So McDonald's could have as much outdoor seating as they want. They don't need our permission.
No, they would need your permission to have outdoor dining, but they wouldn't be limited to the 25% outdoor cap.
Oh, okay.
It's still your needed approval. They're just not subject to that limitation.
Okay. So, okay, now I understand that better. And then, as far as this, and I appreciate you reminding us that you gave us a handout. If you could email that would be great, because I'm looking, I'm looking at, I sorted the spreadsheet that you emailed us, and by size, and it does look like the average is probably in around the 400 range, but I can't tell from looking at this which ones, like the biggest one is 1186 square feet, and that's Puerto Vallarta. Centro is 1,000, and then at least 36 of the approximate 65 are over the 150 square feet right now. But I don't know how many of those were pandemic era or not. So your thing that you handed out will have that.
The handout that was circulated with this outdoor dining inventory are only those which have been approved by the commission. None of the COVID permits are on this spreadsheet.
Oh, wait, none of
I apologize if there was confusion there.
Oh.
That's why I didn't circulate both. The latest updated inventory that was appended to the staff comments are solely those that have been had prior approval by the commission.
Oh, I do see though, there are 8 restaurants which had the original approval for outdoor seating during the pandemic, like Sally's, Metro, Pelicano, Madeira, Sonia's, Chips, Isla, and Esh. Those all had approvals from November 21 to December 22. But that's original approval for outdoor dining. That's not expansion, although they all have than 150, or some of them are. But
Correct.
I'm a little confused, I guess. I'm trying to assess. I'm piggybacking on what Commissioner Harrison said about pinpointing the demand. This list of 65 does not, none of those have had any expansion under the executive order?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to separate the COVID protocol permits from the permits that this commission has reviewed. The COVID protocol permits disappear, and I'm happy to supply you with those, but just as a backdrop of how many folks took advantage of that. There are some on this list that expanded their footprint under the COVID protocol, and there are plenty that were new shooters, so to speak, that never had it before, like Little Pub, for example, never had any outdoor dining until they got a COVID protocol permit. So that is not on this list because that is, this list is solely comprised of those establishments that this commission has approved in the past.
Thank you. That would be great to get that. Then we could assess the demand a little better. And then as far as our annual review, that's not in the old reg. I think we discussed this once before. That's not in the old reg, and it's not in the new proposed reg. right? I don't think, an annual, like, review
Correct.
in January. I don't remember, honestly, I don't even remember doing one. Maybe we
Well,
disbanded.
we haven't done one in the last couple of years because of
Oh.
COVID, but typically, again, the standard conditions of approval that the commission has imposed on those that have been approved is that it's seasonal, which is one element that's being requested for your consideration, and also that it's subject to review. And what that really means, what that boils down to, is usually in February or so, we give you the spreadsheet and say, here's the list. And we haven't had an occasion on when that's been done where the commission has not recertified anybody.
I don't see
So,
reg, though, that talks about certifying at all. I know we do it, but I don't see it. Is it just because it's,
I think it should be in.
It's a condition of approval, not a regulation.
right, so what I can,
Condition of approval.
yeah, and there may be, in the bigger picture sense, an opportunity for us to codify that into regulation going forward, when we are looking at, the general overhaul of our regulations, and there's probably an opportunity to do that, to take the standard conditions that you've all imposed, if you want to make those regulations going forward, we can do that. And we can have a broader discussion about that as we, amend our regulations as a whole as part of our overall work that we're undertaking now. What we're trying to look at here is take this as kind of an interim step. I would agree that this is not a comprehensive rewrite of the regulations with respect to restaurants. It's just before we get into the next season and the COVID protocol permits disappear, is there an appetite to make their footprints a little bit bigger? That's the goal here. Longer term, we can certainly take the opportunity to codify some of these things into the regulations going forward, if that's important for the commission's consideration of this interim step, as I'll call it.
so basically, historically, we have had to approve by special permit every single site plan which included outdoor dining by any type of restaurant, even a food truck.
Not by special permit, by site plan approval, but yes.
Okay.
And I'm not aware of any food truck applications that this commission has approved. I don't want to complicate this, but food trucks that operate in the public street are subject to different rules. Those are police department permits.
Okay.
Food trucks that want to operate on private property are subject to compliance, and the only one that I'm aware of that's ever been approved isn't really a food truck, it's a hot dog vendor at Home Depot, but I don't want to,
Okay.
I don't want to muddy the water with food trucks as part of this discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Francis.
I'll make one last comment. I didn't see the, annual review in those 4 points. Probably
It's not-
because it's not changing.
That's
But I wanna make sure
entirely up to this commission,
we should
how you
keep
want to
that in.
proceed in that fashion,
Yeah.
if you want to limit them and renew annually or not.
Yeah.
It's not a big lift either way, so that's entirely at
No, I
your
think that's a
discretion.
good latitude of action for us to have in case we see something that's just obstructing pedestrian traffic or parking.
Yeah, and again, I will say, that we have opportunity to take normal enforcement procedures on somebody who may be in violation and, on a normal course. We don't need to wait until we're doing an annual recertification to call somebody out as a problem. If there is someone that you feel that is creating a problem, let us know, we can look into it. We don't need to wait until we're just looking at globally under an annual reviews. But whether or not to keep that is entirely within the commission's discretion.
But to write it into the regulations now we would need a new hearing.
We would. I mean, again, we were taking a more,
Just keeping it, we have it as a condition of approval, we can keep that going forward. Should we want to, make it into a regulation, we can have
right,
a
our
hearing,
thought
but-
was,
Yeah, but that's fine.
we didn't want to change the underlying
No, go ahead.
process.
Yeah.
If you want it to be more, articulated through regulation, we can look at that going forward as
Yeah,
a
but
overall
not-
rewrite to the regs.
Got it. All right. again, like I said, I think, people have said they want some additional time. I wouldn't mind it myself. This is the first time down. It is an applicant from our town department, so really no prejudice, though. The new season would be coming up in the new year when we actually saw this, so, you know, I think if we can get our ducks in a row to vote in the next meeting, that would be ideal.
Yeah, I mean, if we can put this to bed in the January timeframe, I think that's, gives restaurants at least enough time to at least start planning.
Yeah, figuring it out for
going
their
forward.
season, so.
I mean, it's not, again, there's no,
Okay. Any other comments, or can we, the motion is to table, can we put that to a vote? Commissioner Levy?
Just if we do table, only because I know I'm gonna be away January 10th, perhaps it could be tabled to the 24th meeting.
Okay.
Because I would like to be present to discuss this.
Okay. I think that's a fair request for a regular commissioner. So,
Thank you.
should we make, is it worth putting that, making the motion to table it to the 24th or 5th, what'd you say?
no, I think that's helpful. I mean,
Okay.
just on a
So we're
personal
not-
note, it's helpful to me as well, because, as some of you may know, I'm not gonna be here for the next 3 weeks.
Yes, so. Can we amend the motion just to make a table straight there so we can avoid, a line item?
Yes.
Okay, so motion is amended by Commissioner Francis and
Yeah.
Commissioner Harrison.
I do have just a more administrative question. If you're away for 3 weeks, do we just go through, Emmeline?
Oh, absolutely. If you've got issues that you want, information on between now and then, feel free to reach out to Emmeline. I will be looking at email, but not, extensively, but yes, absolutely. Please do not hesitate.
Thank you.
Second the
I
motion
will
to
second,
amend
yeah.
it. Okay, so the motion is to table until, January 24th. Okay, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. See 7 hands, passes unanimously. All right.
Yeah, you can, whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah, you can do it. I mean, I can thumbnail it and just chime in whatever has issues.
Yes. Go ahead. Well, let me call the next one,
Oh, you want the mic?
I
couldn't hear what you.
1001 to 1015 South Pine Creek Road, coastal site plan application of 1001 South Pine Creek LLC pertains to construction of a new two-family dwelling in the B zone. Ms. Harrigan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes?
Marty and Kathy, can you hear me from there?
Yep, they're not.
getting a sense, yep.
So I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly. This application is a coastal site plan for 2 properties that are going to be merged together. It's, 1011 and 1015 South Pine Creek. There is a tidal creek and flagged tidal wetlands in the back of the site, which is why this is coming before you as a coastal site plan application. The plan is to demolish the existing single-family structure, and as this is located in the residential B zone, what's proposed is a FEMA-compliant duplex, which would normally be, permitted as of right in a residential B zone. They do have, a site plan, which shows those flagged tidal wetlands in the back corner of the property, as well as the 1-year tidal line. Once you net out those areas, per our zoning regulations, the site is over 14,000 square feet and is eligible for a duplex. On the site plan itself, they are protecting all of the adjacent coastal resources by, installing a silt fence around the construction perimeter, as well as, protecting the stockpile proposed on site and other, construction mitigation, such as, the driveway that protects, different materials from exiting the site. And, this has been, the proposed site plan that you can see now has been reviewed by our engineering department, and they were satisfied with the on-site detention system, one modification that they've asked to be added as a condition. For the coastal, planting plan, which was prepared by Bill Kenny's office, there is some planting of native plants that will provide habitat value, to the site. In this proposed planting plan, they did show some planting that is perhaps located a little too close to the one-year tidal line. As this area is located both within a natural diversity database area, and within the coastal site plan area, it was referred up to DEP Wildlife as well as our DEP Coastal Planner, both of which found that the proposed duplex does not have any adverse impacts. However, the DEP did ask for some additional modifications where they requested that all of the proposed landscaping as well as the proposed split rail fence that you can see on this planting plan be located entirely outside of the one-year tidal line, which is the red dashed line that you can see on this plan. Staff concurs that that would be a good practice for this particular proposal, and so we find that this application is not, does not have adverse impacts to the coastal environment, but we do ask that a few conditions be part of the approval, and I just put them on the screen right now. One of which is that the native plantings be installed and maintained in accordance with the proposed planting plan, but all of the plantings be moved outside of that one-year tidal line. The DEP also requested that we ensure that the applicant understand that should future sea level rise cause additional seasonal yard flooding, that no additional seawalls or revetments would be permitted on this site in the future. And then we're also requesting just a condition that we'd just like to be standard with coastal site plans, that that their structure be in conformance with the Fairfield Flood Protection Regulations, Section 32, for anything that needs to be, you know, slightly modified to meet that requirement. Soil erosion and sedimentation controls need to be installed and maintained during the entirety of construction on the subject site. And then that last condition per the engineering department, to add inspection high-level overflows to the detention system at the rear of the site, and ensure that the sides are graded such that runoff doesn't negatively affect adjacent properties. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Levy?
I'd move to approve the coastal site plan with the 5 conditions recommended by staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Brayman? Seconds?
Second.
Yes. Commissioner Levy?
Based upon the investigation and findings of staff and the various town and state agencies, it appears that there's no significant adverse impact, that it meets the requirements as far as having a duplex in this zone, and that the 5 conditions, are reasonable and appropriate to be imposed upon this approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Brayman?
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Harrigan, for your, as always, thorough CAM analysis and for that presentation. Can I ask you one question? Actually, 2 questions. First of all, have you had any discussion with the applicant about the 5 conditions of approval that you suggested, and any affirmative consent that they will comply with those conditions, or that they have any feedback on them?
I've been coordinating with our zoning enforcement officer on this application. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can hear you, but faintly. Sorry.
I've been coordinating with our zoning enforcement officer.
You gotta flip the button, I didn't turn it on.
Oh,
Be careful, it's gonna be a big difference.
where's the button?
On top of the thing, and
Okay. So I've been coordinating with our zoning enforcement officer on this application, And, he assures me that the applicant is, going to be fine with the conditions.
Very good. And the second question is a more global one. So as often is the case with these CAM applications in the flood hazard zone, especially for new residential construction, the state DEP has expressed its concern that perhaps we should not be building new residential construction in the flood hazard zone due to potential limitations on access for emergency vehicles getting to an inundated structure, or trying to save life or property. Perhaps sea level may be rising in this area within the next several decades, up to 20 inches, and portions of the property may be inundated, perhaps on a regular basis. And the DEP letter challenges us sort of starkly to say, well, is this new construction only a marginal increase in the risk in an already developed area? And so I assume that it's staff sense that this is only a marginal or incremental increase, a duplex added to an existing single family home where if there were two lots, somebody could just build a single family home as of right on the vacant lot.
I would concur with that. For this particular site, it can't be subdivided to two separate parcels, and, well, actually, it could to meet the minimum 6,000 square foot single-family site requirements. So having it combined is probably actually less impactful. You get to do the on-site detention system together. You minimize some of the on-site pavement. So I think it really is incremental based upon what you would be allowed to do with coverage and everything else. So I think it ends up being, approximately the same level of impact. What I would like to mention as well is in our POC discussions with resiliency, we are talking about, including in that plan, if not a short-term goal, but a long-term goal to look at our access ways north-south within our floodplain. So whether those are roadways that will be elevated in the future, that is something that has been part of the discussion, both with the town's engineering department and as part of our resiliency discussion as we update the POCD.
Very good. And I guess another question that occurred to me is, are there senses, other than the fact that it's probably best for this to be a duplex rather than two separate structures, that the applicant is actually enhancing the resiliency of the parcels?
Yes, I believe so, by making this a flood compliant structure.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Braun?
In the materials, it says that they're increasing the impervious surface. I would like to get some information on that. How much is it going from and to? I also would like to know, trees are being cut. I don't know if they're being replaced one for one, but trees have incredible absorption capacity. And a third thing sort of hinging on that is I would like to get some insight from the conservation department, just like we do from other departments in our town. They are the department that is there to protect our natural resources. I would like to see if they have any guidance on perhaps additional improvements or conditions that could help the absorption capability, perhaps less lawn, more trees, or berm. I don't know. There might be something else that could be recommended, because the DEP letter points out that our goal is to enable the tidal wetlands, which are a buffer for flooding, to migrate landward. And the more you develop landward, the less they'll be able to do that, which could provide protection, not just for this property, but beyond this property. And that's an issue that's coming up around town. As you modify development along the actual coast, all the houses inland could then be subject to more flooding based on what you're doing there. So I would really like to have some input from the conservation department. I realize they're not regulatory here. There's not inland wetlands, but they don't only do inland wetlands. They do marsh restoration. They're involved in resiliency planning, and they are the steward of our natural resources. So I would like to get some input from them before we have to decide on this. And answers to my other two questions.
Can you just say that they were the impervious surface and what was the other one?
Yeah, the actual impervious
And trees,
surface.
1-to-1.
Yeah, and the tree cover, what's being lost and what's being added.
Yeah, so if you look at, if you look at the survey, right now, because it is a very modestly sized single-family residence on site, the existing lot coverage is 9.5%, and the proposed lot coverage is 25.8%, where 30% is permitted within the residential B zone.
Does that mean impervious surface is going from 9.8% to 25%? Is that what that means, or?
Yes, that's correct. 30% lot coverage is permitted within this zone.
I'm trying to figure out the difference between impervious surface now and impervious surface in the development.
Well, we don't really, we only regulate lot coverage by structures. We don't calculate the total impervious surface with driveways. That may be within the drainage report that was reviewed by the engineering department that they found to be satisfactory. But that's not usually something that we request in plan and zoning because we only regulate the structure lot coverage.
But if we feel like, if we find that it would be better practice to have less impervious surface or more native plantings, I believe we do have the authority to require that approval.
Well, I mean, based upon the aerial photo for the site, there really, there's a tree buffer at the back property line, which is going to be replaced by the planting plan. I don't believe that the survey has every single existing tree on it. So I don't know if, because normally they don't indicate that if a tree is not a certain caliper size. So for single family or duplex parcels, we don't have a tree planting requirement. With the coastal site plan, there is a requirement to add in more native plantings, which they've shown on their planting plan. So, you know, we do understand that there will be new native plants that are added, and the planting plan does give an extensive list of what those plants are going to be. If you look at the, if you look at the actual plant list provided here.
So they have to move that out of the tidal wetlands buffer, right? So they are going to have to modify from what it is.
Yep, that's correct.
So do we get to see the modified plan? Or do we have to, this is not in a public hearing, explain that to me, I'm trying to understand. So this is not in a public hearing, but other coastal site plans are. Is there a way we could gather?
Well, this is right now, we're in a compliance. So right now the motion is to grant. There could be, I guess, a motion to move to public hearing or to table, but right now there's no public hearing. We're in, I guess, executive session, so to speak,
Correct.
on this application.
If I may, Jim Went for the record, public hearing, coastal site plans that you've seen in conjunction with the public hearing are typically part of a special permit application. For example, one of the items you're hearing on public hearing this evening has a coastal site plan component to it, but it's a public hearing because it's a special permit application. This is, while you do have the discretion to have a hearing if you think is warranted, typically this application is a standalone site plan approval, so it doesn't require a public hearing. Is it within the commission's jurisdiction to have one? Absolutely, that's at your discretion.
I believe whether we need a public hearing or not is, I guess, not my point, but I would like to gather more information before I am expected to vote on something which looks as though it's significantly increasing the impervious surface and significantly reducing the plantings, and they have to move their planting plan now out of the tidal wetlands buffer. I would like to get more information, and I would also like to get guidance from the Conservation Department on other means or measures that they would recommend, knowing that they don't have regulatory authority, but they are the department that handles that is the expert in that area. I would like to hear from them. Just like we hear from engineering or the police department on other issues, I'd like to hear from them about this before I vote. So I guess I would like to table it until we can hear back from them and get an answer to the other, question from the applicant. Lawns do not provide any absorption. Trees and plantings do. I don't see the difference between what's there now and what will be there.
Okay. Well, since the request has been made, Commissioner Levy, was your motion?
It was my motion.
Okay.
As a courtesy to Commissioner Braun, I would not object to it being tabled.
Okay. And I think you said, Commissioner Braun, it's less the public hearing, it's just the tabling to gather more information, which we can do through staff.
I don't think.
And so before I go, Commissioner Brayman was my second, or our second?
Yeah, no objection to tabling this item to January 10, or what the next available meeting date.
Is that okay? I assume you don't want to be part, you don't care about being part of this one?
I'll pass on that.
Yeah, okay.
January 10th is okay.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so right now, we'll say we have a motion to table that's pending. And I think, at least through, Commissioner Braun, what she said, we have questions, any other member of the commission, wish to put out, I guess, questions that we can ask through staff, or we can do this in an email off the record as well, within what we've normally done in due course. But any other members of the commission have comments, questions? Okay, so right now, the current motion, excuse me, is to table. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. These 7 hands passes unanimously.
And thank you for your consideration, Commissioner Levy. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking because I'm coughing.
Okay. It's a good practice we do in this board, and there's nothing wrong with keeping that going. So again, thank you, Commissioner Levy and Commissioner Brayman. We moved on to a public hearing, 636 Kings Highway, special exception application of Monica Harrison to establish a day nursery in a portion of an existing building in the design commercial district, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
I'll turn it on if you need it. Speak up, I'm sure we'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and just head out, yeah, no need to stay, obviously.
Hello,
Good evening.
my name is Monica Harrison,
Sorry.
I'm Robert Rifkin.
and I have a small daycare center in Fairfield. It's called Bear Hook Child Care Center. Originally, I worked for the Fairfield YMCA, 1992, and then they closed in 2002, and then I opened up in 2003, and still in existing. Originally, we were on Kings Highway, Calvin Hall, originally. Then we moved into Trinity St. Michael's Episcopal Church. And then we've been there for about 14 years, and then they actually told us that they were closing the church. So, surprised, my parents now, basically we have nowhere to go until we found Mr. Rifkin.
And I have a building at 636 Kings Highway, 1,350 square feet on the top floor, which she'd like to turn into a daycare center. And that's what we're here for.
So we're open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We cater to 6 weeks to 5 years old. We do have, at the moment, I have 3 staff members, and then myself will be 4. I have a nurse that comes once a week. She works for Yale New Haven Hospital. And then I have an educational consultant that comes in once a month. We're licensed for 25 children in the space that we're in now, but the space that we're anticipating moving in, it's going to be a little smaller, so we're hoping for 18 children. We did have our licensed inspector come out, Terry Roberts. She came out and she did an inspection, and she actually asked us if we remove 2 walls, add in 2 more toilets and a sink, we can get up to 18 children. So then you would need more than 13 kids to be classified as a full-day childcare center, which we are now. But if I stay under 13, I will only be a group home center. So we're trying to make it over 13 kids, so we can be classified as a full-day childcare center.
And is that your plan to take down the walls so you
Yes.
can get to that 18?
Yes.
Okay.
So our contractor is here as well, so he would go over all of that stuff.
Okay.
But, yes.
Any questions you have?
Go ahead, Commissioner Levy.
Is this the, site where Aristocats currently is?
Correct.
Okay. And is there any, I don't think there's any, like, playground area there.
Well, we thought about having it in the grassy area, the lower part of the stairs, but when Terry Roberts came out, she suggests that we can have it in the front of the parking lot area, and we can have riding bikes, so we can have it fenced off. But she said it would have to be an okay from Mr. Rifkin to say, okay, we can use that parking space, seeing that we will be the only ones in that top area. And we would use maybe, 5 parking spots, including maybe 5 for my staff and Mr. Rifkin, his son, and then the lower person. I think it's only 1 person. So maybe 6 parking spaces would be used throughout the day, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's on the lower level right now?
Cameo Kitchen Designs. There's 2 people working in there, Mr. Cummings and his secretary. So there's 2 people. Very infrequently do they have people that visit there. My accounting office is upstairs in the back half of that building, and there's myself and 2 other people. So there's 3 in my office, 2 below, and she's got 4 or 5. And I think there's 19 parking spaces.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's the address is what, Kings Highway, any issues, how is pickup and, drop-off normally go?
Well, he has a fenced-in parking lot, so they will come to the front door, and inside is the first entranceway, so the parents will drop off in the entranceway and sign in, and then, they would leave afterwards. So the pickup and drop-off is it's basically what we have now. You would just enter through the front entrance door, drop off, and then leave back out.
Would that be from Kings Highway or sort of off Berwick?
That would be the entrance door there.
That's, what's the name of that street, the side street?
Berwick.
Berwick.
You come up Berwick to my parking lot there, and then you pull in, and this would be the front way. This is the doorway now to Aristocats.
Mm-hmm.
She's leaving, and Monica wants to come in with her operation.
So that's the door they would go into?
Yes.
That's the doorway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's off of the busy Kings Highway?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, that's what I was.
There's an aerial photo as well, sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
There's this photo, I don't know if you can zoom in on that a little bit. Just to kind of ballpark you, that large commercial building in the upper part of that photo is Town Fair Tire, that center. So the building fronts on Kings Highway, the parking lot accesses off of Berwick, the adjacent, because it's kind of a corner parcel. And so that there's a grade change, so it's a 2-story building. If you look at it from Kings Highway, and that other photo that you just saw is the upper floor that's accessed from the higher grade where that existing parking lot is.
There's an 8-foot retaining wall in the back half of the building.
Okay. Is there a stoplight on with Kings Highway with Berwick?
No.
Or is this, okay,
The only
Stop sign.
stoplight's at the corner at, Walgreens.
okay, take a right or left, but it's a stop sign.
That's a perfect location for
There's one more,
the
if you
quiet
scroll
street.
down, there's one more photo, no, the other direction.
Oh,
So that's the upper, this is the building as it appears
In the front.
on Kings Highway. If you scroll back, the parking lot view is from the upper level. So it looks like it's the upper
Yeah.
floor is really the entrance level of the back.
Ms. Harrigan, can you please go back to the aerial?
Yep.
You mentioned a potential playground area, where would that be?
That, it was gonna be in the grassy area behind the shed, but it's gonna be in the front, if you went back to the front of the building, where the bushes are,
We're talking about-
the front area of the playground.
I own the house next to the 636. so they're contiguous pieces of property. And there's a grassy area there, but I thought we were talking about putting the parking,
In the parking.
above.
Yeah,
So she's talking about taking one parking space off of the parking lot
so if you go,
and putting up a fence, or a security fence, and the kids would be able to play there.
so when they come out of the front entrance door, we're right into the play area, and so that way they're not walking around in the parking lot.
Actually, there's a catwalk on the side of the building.
Yeah,
So if you're standing in front of the where her entrance is, there's a catwalk on both sides.
Okay.
The one on the right goes to my office door. The one on the left goes to her second entrance and exit door in her space. So the kids would never come into the parking lot.
no,
Okay, that's,
They would walk
Yeah.
along the walkway right to the space.
and you're amendable to having that space for the children?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I got the sense, I couldn't tell if it was, what was agreed upon or still conditional.
mhm.
Commissioner Harrison, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. And, Ms. Harrison, I'm glad that you can be nimble and hopefully this will come to fruition. I know it's probably hard these days.
Yeah.
But just a question, just for security, you know, with schools these days, like, is there any precautions or anything that you're doing differently now that you'll have, you know, young kids there?
Well, what we have now is, we have a main door, if the place that I am in now, we have a main door, and then you have the second door that's always locked with a doorbell. So that's basically what, Aristocats has there now. They have just when you first walk in, but then I think there's locked from the inside, so sometimes they have to unlock it. So it'd be the same thing. No one can get past the second door to get into with the children.
Gotcha.
The children would be dropped off in the foyer.
Yeah.
And then there's a walkway through that's locked. Once the kids came in, the door would be locked behind them.
Okay, great. And then just with, pickup and, you know, and drop off, now, are the kids like kind of staggered? Like, do they is it definitely like, it starts at 7, everyone's dropped off by then, or is it kind of a staggered?
It depends on, like how we have it now, it depends on what the parents' time schedules
Right.
are. So I get some kids at exactly at 7 a.m., and then I get some kids at 7:45, and then some days I get some kids at 8:20. So it depends on the parents' work schedule, but we're open from 7 to 6.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you said you currently have about 25 currently?
Well, we're licensed for 25, I have 18 now.
Okay, and you find that, as far as drop-off and pickup, you'll get 18, for, let's just say drop-off, you'll get 18 cars coming in to drop the kids off?
Not at once, no, it's not
No,
even, yeah.
But
even
over
like
an hour and a half period?
Maybe within that 2-hour time, it'll be 3 cars in the parking lot at once, or, you know, including the staff too.
Okay. And I mean, Kings Highway, an additional, or even just say 20, car trips is not gonna be an issue. Is Berwick?
You'll never see me there at 7 o'clock.
Okay, fair enough. So I shouldn't be asking you then, Berwick can handle an extra 20?
10:30.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm surprised that the Aristocrats, the parking lot's very busy. It's gonna be less busy with her there.
Okay. But even Berwick Avenue, an extra 20,
Berwick is very quiet.
it can handle an extra 20 trips in the morning and the evening?
Excuse me?
It can handle an extra 20 trips?
Oh, easily. And I don't expect that it's not gonna be like a deluge of 20 people.
No, I'm not,
That drop off.
it's not gonna be an elementary school, you know,
No.
we see in the
I think
morning
it's
or the
worked very
afternoon.
well.
No, I get that. Just trying to think what else is for special exception, criteria besides parking. Any other questions? Commissioner Braun and then Brayman.
Can you show aerial again? I'm still a bit confused. Are you taking the place of Aristocats, or are you gonna be under them? Because I've been in that building, I don't understand where this is exactly.
She's taking the place of Aristocrats.
Oh, that explains it, okay. And then as far as the playground not being in the parking lot, can you show me on the aerial where the playground's gonna be?
It would be in the, when you're looking at that picture, it would be in the top left of the parking lot.
It would be in the
That parking space, right, would be fenced off back to the catwalk, so that children can come from inside the building, protected into that area.
Okay,
They never would be loose on the parking lot.
the catwalk is over on that side of the building where that,
On both sides of the building, there's a catwalk.
and that taking away a space for a playground does not affect parking requirements at all? I guess that's for Jim.
I think there's inadequate enough. There's
Okay.
only one space.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no, I don't know if you can hear me, hopefully you can hear me. There's not a strict standard for how many spaces a daycare facility needs. It's depending on the capacity. As I understand it, you're looking to be somewhere between 13 and 18 children overall with 3 or 4 staff people at max at any given time. So, so based on the other occupancies, it's a judgment call on the commission's part as whether the parking is adequate. And the other two buildings there, or is that one building and a garage? Is that at all connected? Is it under the same ownership, or do they use the same parking lot, or is that?
I own the corner, and the house next door is a residential property. It's got 2 apartments, one Section 8.
And that has no connection through the parking lot or any other way to the building? I'm thinking of security as well.
No, there's steps that go from the lower level to the upper level. But they have their own parking spaces on the contiguous piece of property.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brayman?
Thank you. This sounds like an excellent transition for the space. Wanted to ask whether there's any particular challenges in transitioning it from a veterinary use to childcare to daycare. Like I saw that there was a need to remove an examining table, and you mentioned installation of 2 toilets and a sink. But is there anything else that's going to have to be done from a construction or fit up perspective to tailor this from the prior, veterinary use to now serving children?
Other than putting in flooring, we would just have to decide on if we're doing carpeting or flooring, but for the most part, it would just be what the drawing is. The 2 bathrooms, the 2 toilets, the sinks. They have to be separate from the staff, so that's why you would see the sink in the toilet in the front area and the sink in the toilet in the back area. So staff would be in the front, children will be in the back.
The one in the front is also a handicap bathroom.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the catwalks for access to the different units in the building. If children are going to be using those catwalks, are there measures that need to be taken to make them more secure? And those, I can't remember, the physical attributes of the catwalks from my visits to that site.
The catwalk is probably the one that they would be using is 3 feet wide when you exit the doorway, and 25 feet long that goes to the parking lot.
Yeah.
That would be the catwalk.
Enclosed, I guess, with fencing or whatever.
It's got a roof on top.
Okay.
Right. It's enclosed. It's not weatherproof, but it's enclosed. You can't get rained on or snowed on.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Very good space for this. The building is very, very secure building. It's a block building. The inside is all concrete and steel.
Very good.
Any questions in the commission, my alternates? Did you want to have your contractor? He doesn't have to, unless you...
If you need to ask some questions,
Is just available for questions, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else with questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll close the initial presentation. I'll ask if there's going to be any public comments. The public has a right to come up, and if anybody so chooses or is here. Is there anybody, member of the public, that wishes to be heard in the audience? I don't see anybody. Do we have anybody else online besides our commissioners?
It looks like there's a Tom Stavros with his hand up.
Okay. Mr. Stavros, are you here to comment on this application? I'll just say it then in general. Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard? Oh. Mr. Stavros, are you here for this application, 636 Kings Highway? Okay. He looks like he's speaking. He's on mute. I think you're on mute, sir. I still can't hear him. And he's gone. Oh, he's still there.
Mr. Stavros, if you've called in via phone, if you can just press *6 to unmute yourself.
All right, but there's nobody else online besides now, at least, our commissioners? You know what, let me just say it. Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard that's joining us remotely or calling in? If you're calling in through a phone, please press *6. Any member of the public? If he calls in, we may just take him out of where I don't know. We'll worry about that later. Having hearing no member of the public, close that portion of the hearing. Normally you'd get a chance to rebut if somebody from the public had something to say. Nobody's obviously here to speak, so if there's anything else, feel free. Otherwise, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you.
I'll close the hearing on this matter. Call 345 Reef Road, special permit and coastal site plan application of Phoenix at 345 Reef Road Corp. Pertaining to a 9 residential development. Commissioner Ford, I think, is recusing yourself?
Yep.
Okay. So have a good evening, Commissioner Ford. Well, this is hearing, so, yeah, so, nobody's up yet.
New protocol.
Commissioner Kett, feel free to take your leave if you like, because I know you're, it's up to you, though.
Yeah, I think I will. I have to be at the park very early.
No, no worries. I figured I'd put that out just in case, that helps in any way.
It does, thank you.
Okay, again, congratulations.
Thank you. It was an
Best
honor
wishes.
serving with all of you. Good luck and beating it. Good luck, and, if there's anything I can help you with up in Hartford, you have my
Sure is.
contact
Thank you.
information.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Representative.
Congratulations. Take care, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Effective December 31st. So I just made the connection that maybe she won't be back. I should have said it earlier.
I'm right here.
Thank you. Commissioner Ford told me he was recusing himself and he was gonna leave, and then it just dawned on me that I should offer that invitation to her as well, so. Attorney Rizzio, good to see you.
Chairman, Commissioner, is new protocol to sit down, or you can stand, whatever you want?
However you like. I think the microphone's on the table, but if you feel like
A little
sitting,
more, whatever.
that's fine. We don't yet have a, podium. You feel free to bring one.
Chair, members of the commission, my name is Raymond Rizzi. I'm happy to be before you tonight, representing my client Phoenix, at 345 Reef Road Corp. with regard to 345 Reef Road. This is, you know, I don't want to say it's phase 2, but it's an adjoining property by the same developer. I don't think anything speaks louder than what's being done at 321 Reef Road, which was where the ZBA went through this commission. Huge improvement to a property, upgrading, very difficult property. After we started construction, our client, the property next door came for sale. There were a number of suitors for the property. Our client, obviously, to protect his interests, protect, what he considered a very substantial investment, purchased the property and has now decided to try and put 9 townhomes on the property at 345 Reef Road. It's about almost an acre of property. It's 42,000 square feet. It has public city sewer to city water. The property will be all built in accordance with FEMA standards. We've worked very closely on the adjoining property with the neighbors, and we did so here also, as I can explain to you some parts of the development. This will have an entrance off of Reef Road. It will use by way of an easement, circular. You know what, it's easier for me to talk like this and kind of point through things. Fine, it's all right with you. So, previously, these 2 properties had 3 curb cuts. We're now getting rid of the curb cut over here, and it'll be 2 curb cuts. We're actually lessening the curb cuts down Reef Road, which is a good thing. You'll come in, enter from the south, you enter on the northern end of this property, southern end of the other property. You'll be able to circulate within the development and then go back out through the same way. The other property at 321 Reef Road is one-way all the way around, with enough parking. This property will have 9 townhomes. The units will have 4 bedrooms. They'll have elevators. There'll be 25 parking spaces. They're required to have 22. We have 25. We went to the ZBA. This is an NDD zone, typically a mixed-use zone. Reef Road, the office buildings have not gone well there. It's one of the reasons next door has been developed. It's one of the reasons the other building was torn down. It was supposed to be another office building that never went forward. And the building to the south, what's called to the south of us, is a empty office building that Norwalk Hospital leased but is never occupied, and not one of the more attractive buildings in town. I'll hand out some pictures which will hopefully take you, good news is you had to drive right by it to come here, so I know everybody's seen it. You don't have to do a site tour or anything like that.
We'll take 2 for our,
I keep Walgreens.
if you have 2 extra sets,
Oh, I got
take them
2
for our,
There we go.
TV friends.
Sorry, Commissioner Brayman, I forgot about you there, Commissioner Braun.
so yeah, just,
We'll put them out,
I'll
I'll
take
put them
them.
in. So, pretty straightforward. As you can see on the first picture, this is, as I said, it took some creativity by our client in designing this property because the property directly to the south is maybe the least attractive side elevation of a building you could possibly imagine. As you can see, the property's fairly flat and level. Property to the south of us has no windows. When the previous building got torn down, you'll see the asphalt in the back. This is the building that's currently being renovated directly to the north, 321 Reef Road. That building now has had substantial renovation. The roofs are going on now. It's 9 townhomes that are attached with very nice porches, very attractive front elevation. That's this building here at 321. As you go by now, it doesn't look anything like this, but it gives you an impression of what's around it. It's building next door. And then the buildings to the rear are all similar. They're similar to our townhouses. So we believe we mix well with other townhouses in the surrounding neighborhoods. I put a copy on Sherman Street of what the townhouses look like in these type of communities, another one on Oldfield Road. But more importantly, this property stands alone. So we needed to get 2 waivers from the ZBA. In an NDD zone, which is supposed to be a mixed-use zone, you're supposed to have first floor commercial, second and third floor residential, no more than 2 floors residential. And we got approval to have first floor residential and to have the building be 100% residential. So those 2 waivers have been approved. Therefore, we're before you with the ability to now go with 9 townhomes with no commercial development on the property. Commercial development on Reef Road has always struggled, and we believe that this is a very attractive use for the property. One of the things we did in designing these, as I said, they are going to be, you'll enter off of Reef Road, you'll come in. We had a neighbor to the rear. There's Smith Street in the back. It's very well covered. We've met with the neighbors. We have already landscaped a lot of it. Neighbor to directly behind this, the building was originally configured with the 3 units facing their backyard. What we did was we at their request, so that we didn't have 3 units looking into their backyard, we basically switched the building so that the side of our building, no porches or patios or decks will be out facing the residential area to the rear. So we've worked with all of our neighbors. And I think we've come up with a first-class project. And taking you through the elevations, which I think are important, I'll take you through the floor plans first. Each unit has a 2-car garage inside, and there is, as I talked about before, there's a total of 25 spaces for visitor parking to the outside. Then there'll be a multi-purpose room, either an office, you'll see mechanicals, and then there'll be an elevator on each unit. Then you'll have a family room, dining area, full kitchen, and a bedroom and a pantry. The bedroom will have the ability to has a shower, so if it's an older crowd and they want to have everything on one floor and just visiting on the back, on the upper floors, they can do that, but there will be an elevator in each of the units. 3rd floor. Hold on a second.
parking is 25 parking spots plus the 2-car garage.
No, including in the 2-car garage. So there's basically, in the 9 units, 2 parking spots.
which would be 18
Yeah, okay.
plus 7 visitor parking.
Okay.
When I take you to the site plan, I'll show you something else. Now, the third floor is 3 bedrooms. It was designed as the master bedroom because of the elevators, but if anybody wanted to have it just on the first floor, on the second floor, what we consider the first floor, that would be there. There'll be nice wood decks off the front building. What's most important is our client, as you can see from 321 Reef Road, when you drive down the street, you'll see that first building that looks out onto Reef Road, which is called Building A, that 3-story townhouse. This is the front elevation that you'll see as you drive down the road. Very attractive, almost looking like a really beautiful single-family home, and really will accent and complement the building at 321. All the other elevations for the different buildings are very similar. And, you know, it's, as far as this, we're compliant with every other development. We've got, with regard to zone development standards, we are at we're entitled to have 75% building floor area, we're only at 36%. But we have 95% coverage, we're entitled to 100% coverage, and we have more than enough parking. One thing I will bring to your attention, when you look at the site plan, the building next door, when it was approved for hospital use, has exclusive right to use these 12 spaces. They're not used. There's basically even a fence, you know, that goes through them, but we cannot include those in our calculations. At some point, I imagine there'll be more than enough parking here. Right now, these parking spaces exist. There's no one in the building that uses them. There's more than sufficient parking here. 2 spaces per unit, 7 parking spaces. Keep in mind, there's additional parking over here. But these are two independent projects, but they will complement each other and look like a phase 1 and a phase 2. Don't know much more to say, but I got to tell you, I drive by it. Every time I drive by it, the building to the north gets better. As you can see, the elevations of this new building to the south. I think we'll do an unbelievable job of taking 2 non-performing commercial buildings that really have struggled for 25 years. My only hope is that the third building becomes available and we can really improve this tract all the way up and down. I don't know much more to say. I think the elevations speak for themselves. The building to the north helps to speak to what you're going to see to the quality going here. We are compliant with all your zone development standards. Additional to a special permit, we need a coastal site plan approval. We're about a half a mile from Long Island Sound. I don't think we'll have any detrimental effects on Long Island Sound. We will comply with all FEMA regulations, and we believe that this will have no negative impact on the coastal area. I'd be happy to answer any questions. As you know, I can go on as long as you want, but I think it's a pretty straightforward application. It's 9 townhouses that comply with all the zone development standards. It's a huge upgrade from an outward appearance, and we're reducing, I believe, so-called traffic. Had this been a 20 or 30,000 square foot office building, and we're reducing the curb cuts on Reef Road, which has always been an issue with regard to traffic. So you're reducing the traffic, you're reducing the density, you're improving the quality of the buildings that go up on the street. I think it's basically a win-win for the town, and taking a property that's just sat vacant for as long as I can remember. And that's basically it. I think we comply with everything. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've lived with this property for the last couple of years, and I think it's a great improvement.
As you said, a half mile away, but did DEP review anything?
Coastal's been submitted. I don't know that if staff has received any. I can't imagine there being.
No, your point's taken. It's inland essentially, but still.
This
doesn't need it.
This wasn't referred to deep because it's not a water.
Yeah. Okay.
Site
That makes sense.
title resources, so we did not make that referral.
Okay. Commissioner Harrison?
Yeah, sorry, and these were not labeled, so I don't know what I'm looking at.
All right, so if you want, I can take you through them.
I mean, there are a
We'll try
lot
to show
here.
you
You don't need to.
there's similar
Okay.
townhouses along Reef Road, similar townhouses right around the corner, one on Sherman Street.
Right.
I can name them all. These are down on Reef Road, further down on Reef
Yeah.
Road.
I should have taken a better look when I drove it today.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay, though. No, that's all, that's good.
Further down on Reef Road, Oldfield Road, which has just recently been completed and I think sold out very quickly, very much in demand. The these were on Sherman Street. What I tried to show you, these are other projects that were in the NDD
I know this one, okay.
that have been 100% residential, I think have been very successful and a very good use of property, and especially in congested areas
Yeah.
versus having a 20 or 30,000 square foot office building sit there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Levy.
And just to get my bearings, this picture that shows 325, is that the same as 321?
Yeah, it's 321-325.
Okay, so that's the one that's already being renovated.
Correct.
This one here, this is to
That
the
is
south.
the front of the building directly to our south that has
Right.
that beautiful side elevation
Been
that we have to figure out how to handle.
Empty for years.
Yes.
And is this where the old Hanson's
Yes,
was? So it's
correct.
basically a lot at this point.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And the old AT&T building,
Correct,
whatever?
that remaining, yeah, that,
Still there?
and that I think is there forever. I don't think there's anything anybody's gonna do to transform that. They have too much equipment in there. I don't even think there's a soul, I've never seen a car or a soul in that building.
And this one, that's Smith Street, a duplex, does that abut the
No,
property?
that's a property that sits behind the property, just showing you that those kind of elevations exist abutting the property.
Right. Does that abut on, that's on Smith Street, isn't it?
It's on Smith Street, yeah.
Right, okay, got my bearings, thank you.
And now, is this still residential, or people living there?
That's also another, that's the apartment building right directly to the
Yeah, I'm
south.
familiar with that. Is that still occupied?
Those are all occupied,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. There's about, I think there's like 20 or 30 units in there.
Yeah.
They're old, they're brick, there's multiple buildings that are there. That's along the corner, the southern corner.
Any other member of the commission have questions? Okay. Thank you. I think we're good.
You're welcome.
Seeing nobody in person, so no member of public's here, I'll just, to avoid what we just did, any member of the public who's joining us remotely or by telephone wish to be heard on this application? If you are calling in, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter?
I raised my
Any
hand.
pub member of the- There we go. Hi.
This is Liz DeTrapano. I live directly behind this, this property. I'd sent an email into the commission as well and haven't had a chance to connect. I just sent it about an hour ago to, the TPZ commission, but the one request that I am going to make to the legal team and to the owner is just to further discuss the, landscaping in the back. I think we very much appreciate what's been done so far, but any coverage, there's not going to be any coverage from what's there for the next, several years. So just would request that we can discuss that further. And then the only other concern that I've had on the property, and I've discussed this with Mr. Rizzio in the past, is this becoming college rentals. And my understanding is that the owner owns several properties along Fairfield Beach that have the same exterior look with the, dark blue with the aqua door. So that's just a concern that's in my mind, is this becoming college housing units for 18 units behind a residential street. I know a lot of people on Smith Street are concerned about that. And I know that's not the intent, but I just want to raise that concern.
Thank you. I see another person has raised their hand. Janet, joining us online or remote, or?
I am. Hi, my name is Janet. I am the owner and resident of 128 Smith Street, that partially is behind 345 Reef Road. I have actually not had any active dialogue with the builder or representatives for 345, but I would like to echo the concerns that Liz DeTrapano has just shared around the potential for these units to become Fairfield View student rentals. I have some concern that will cause some pretty significant traffic congestion and pose some safety concerns for a pretty residential part of the area. So would like to just note that is a concern of mine as well. Also to echo what Liz shared, given the structures that will be at 345 and the turn of the buildings, I think that there is some potential that we'll have 3 units effectively looking into my property. Again, I have not had dialogue with the owner of the building or representatives of the owner, so I would like to understand what that sight line would look like and if there can be some landscaping installed to address that privacy concern.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? Again, if you're calling in, please press *6. To those members of the public that have spoken, Attorney Rizzio is writing things down, so when it's his turn during rebuttal, I expect that he will address those topics. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard in this matter? Again, this matter being 345 Reef Road. Anybody else, Ms. Harrigan, that you can see? Final call, any member of the public wish to be heard? Once, twice. I'll close the public, hearing portion of his application.
One question before we get to rebuttal.
Sure.
Has it been determined yet whether these will be for sale units or rentals?
The idea is that they'll be individual condominiums for sale. They may
rent them,
conditions, some could end up being rented. Our client's intent, if you look at the quality, the size of the units, the finishes of the units, these are not designed for, college kids. There's elevators, 2-car garages inside. It's
It's gonna be fairly expensive, I would expect.
Yes. I guess you could say it's on the record. I think the units next door are probably around $1.3 million to $1.5 million. So these are not being built for college students. The intention was to build and sell as condominiums. I think the building to the north has units that are listed. We can't list buildings until they're approved, but we have gotten we have a ton of interest from people who want to downsize and don't have, in the beach area, the ability to, as you saw what happened up on Old Field, the corner of Old Field and Reef almost, sold out sold out very quickly. Similar, I don't think as attractive as a concept, and I think this is actually a better location and with more spacing. There's only 9 units here. Speaking to the two, does that go to answer your question?
It very much does.
And then if you want me to go to rebuttal, I can do that.
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
We're in rebuttal. I think we just jumped the gun. And go ahead.
No, and I presume that you'll get into this, but, during your presentation, you said, you had reached out to neighbors and they were good with everything, so. You
spent a lot of time with the Trapanos.
I just asked my question. What kind of outreach was done to the neighbors?
I walked myself, door to door.
Okay.
Okay, when I ended up stopping, I think at the neighbor next door, they were not home. Another neighbor was not home. Mr. Trapano will tell you, I think I met with her multiple times. My client has met with her. Arnie Peterson, who has the property directly next to the Trapanos, walked the property with them. I lived around the corner. So as my wife said, when finally somebody else that you build it in your own neighborhood, you're kind of building your own neighborhood. So I walked the street, whatever people were there, I knocked on their door. With regard to out of our discussion with the Trapanos, and it also answers the question for, I believe, the person who lives next door, Trapanos property takes about 3/4 of this. Mm-hmm. This was originally, these 3 units faced the back. Right. It would have been much more attractive for our client to have a nice thing and have a little backyard. They were very concerned, and keep in mind, the buildings behind us are all 3 stories. They're the same size, the same units.
Right. No, I understand.
These could very easily, each one of them sit very smoothly on Smith Street versus the commercial enterprises that have been there. We agreed to switch our site plan so that only 1 unit, and I'll show you the side, and we can even agree as a condition of approval that there be no decks or no decks going on the unit C9 facing the rear elevation. That's not our problem. The other person lives in about this corner, second person who spoke. These are going to be, we've added large arborvitaes. These are white oaks. It is probably the best buffering that exists along that corridor. And certainly if you live in the beach area, houses that back up to each other, whether it's Roland, Lally, you go to Penfield, don't have the extent of the landscaping that's being offered here. And we comply with the landscape requirements. So there's still, large arborvitae, large white oaks, and a good-sized buffer from the rear of the property lines, all within the existing zone development standards. And probably the least intense development you can expect from a site in this area. And for one of the reasons our clients, there were people who had much more ambitious plans for the property, and part of the reason our client made sure that they bought this was to protect his interests directly to the north. And I think he's done that, and I truly believe this is a fabulous project, and as you watch 321 to 325 grow, and as you've seen it evolve, and you see the front elevation here, you can see it's quite an improvement. Let me show you, so that I want to make sure that people online understand that we made a commitment for our side elevation, which is the C building side elevation. Give me 1 second. A, B, C. Proposed these elevation. Give me 1 second, folks. I apologize, but I'll just take you. Give me 1 second, and then we'll get there. C. So this is this is the C building, which is next to the neighbors. This is facing what would be 321. So this elevation here is this elevation here, facing a parking lot. This used to be a desolate parking lot. Okay, so you understand that. So that's like the front of the building. And that's what the side elevation will look like. As you can see, there's no patios, there's no decks. It's a nice entryway, basically into a first level.
Mm-hmm. Limited windows on the third floor.
What's that?
Limited windows on the third floor.
Correct. That was all done at the request of the neighbors versus
That last one was on the east.
the rear elevation being full windows, these, three units facing the back, facing one house. So as you can see, we've done what we can to limit the exposure, buffer the neighboring properties with a project that provides the least amount of density possible on the site. For all those reasons, we respectfully request this commission grant this application. I'd be happy to discuss anything further, and the nice thing is you're seeing the quality come out of the ground as it is, and this is going to be the same, except even a little better because the buildings can be spread out. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any members of the commission have questions, final questions before close the hearing? Seeing none, I think we're good.
Thank you very much.
Close the hearing on this matter and, close the, meeting for tonight. Oh, sorry.
Lenny and Kathy, log off, I just want to remind everybody, we're convening again tomorrow evening at 6:30 at the Board of Ed conference room.
Oh, thank you, yeah, I would've came here.
I would've came here.
I'll send everybody an email tomorrow, I'm gonna forego phone calls, but I'll send everybody an email reminder tomorrow. We're not here, we're gonna be at the Board of Ed conference room, 6:30.
You may wanna send it, because I forgot about these two here, getting reminders.
I talked to Dan on his way out, he's unfortunately unable to make it as he is, but I think everybody else is.
Okay.
Will it be,
Thank you, too.
will it be recorded, or,
That's the stocky on us.
Hearing, so
it'll be recorded, I can watch it on FairTV.
Jim, it's gonna be recorded, right? Yeah, on telephone, too. It's remote, too, I think.
I'm gonna be at the Greater Bridgeport Bar.
Oh,